Can you imagine looking at the draft board and seeing a top 10 generational talent just sitting there when we pick at 18? Honestly, my heart is pounding just thinking about it because the Minnesota Vikings might be about to pull off the absolute heist of the century. We have all been waiting for that one defensive piece that changes the entire identity of this unit, and suddenly, the unthinkable is happening right before our eyes. The rumors are swirling, the experts are starting to sweat, and our front office is leaning forward in their chairs. If this slide actually happens, the entire NFC North is going to be on notice. We are talking about a move that resets our championship window immediately. Are you ready for this? Caleb Downs is the name that every single Vikings fan needs to have burned into their brain right now, because this kid is a freak of nature on the football field. We are talking about a safety from Ohio State who was supposed to be a locked-in top 10 pick, a guy who scouts describe as a chess piece that can erase an entire side of the field. But here is where it gets absolutely wild for us in Minnesota. Reports are surfacing that there are concerns about his athletic testing numbers and how teams value the safety position in the modern era, which is causing a massive ripple effect across draft boards. This isn't just small talk. We are seeing respected analysts suggest that Downs could actually slide all the way down to pick 18 where we are waiting. I cannot stress enough how insane this would be for Brian Flores and his defensive scheme. Caleb Downs is the kind of player who has a high football IQ, elite closing speed, and a physical presence that makes receivers terrified to go across the middle. He was the heartbeat of that Buckeye secondary, and seeing him potentially fall into our laps feels like a dream I don't want to wake up from. If he is there at 18, you don't even think. You just sprint that card up to the podium and celebrate. However, as much as we want to focus solely on the dream of landing Downs, there are layers to this draft strategy that suggest the Vikings might have a very difficult decision to make if multiple stars start to tumble down the board. The value of a safety versus other positions is always a heated debate in the war room, and while Downs is a special case, the Vikings are looking at every possible angle to ensure they don't miss on this pick. It leads to a massive question about what happens if the board doesn't fall exactly as we hope. Could there be another names on the radar that are just as impactful but flying under the radar? The tension is building because the gap between pick 10 and pick 18 is where the real drama of the draft happens, and the Vikings are currently sitting in the catbird seat, waiting to see which elite prospect slips through the cracks. But just when you think you have the board figured out, a new name enters the conversation that could change our entire approach. I am literally shaking with excitement over these draft possibilities for our Vikings. If you love this team as much as I do, hit that subscribe button and drop a like right now. We are tracking every single draft rumor until the pick is in. You seriously do not want to miss what is coming next for us. Dylan Thieneman is the other name that is starting to gain a massive amount of traction within the Vikings' scouting circles as a potential backup plan, or even a strategic alternative to Downs. While everyone is focused on the big names from the Blue Blood programs, Thieneman has been absolutely lighting up the film with his range and ball-hawking ability. He is the type of player who offers a different kind of versatility, and some scouts actually believe his pure coverage skills might be more refined for a pass-heavy league. This is where it gets interesting because if Caleb Downs is gone, or if the Vikings decide that Thieneman fits the locker room culture better, we could see a massive pivot that shocks the fan base. Thieneman represents that gritty, high-motor style of play that we have come to love in Minnesota, and his ability to diagnose plays before they happen is something you just can't teach. The debate between these two prospects is heating up because it isn't just about talent. It is about fit and future. Are we looking for the superstar name or the guy who fits the scheme like a glove? The front office is doing their due diligence on both, and the fact that Thieneman is even in this conversation tells you everything you need to know about his rising stock. I've watched hours of his tape, and the way he attacks the ball in the air is reminiscent of some of the great Vikings safeties of the past. But here is the thing that keeps me up at night. If we pass on a falling superstar like Downs for a riser like Thieneman, the pressure on that pick becomes 10 times heavier. We've seen this story before where we overthink the room and miss out on a blue-chip talent. The draft is a gamble, but when you have a guy like Downs sliding, you have to wonder if the Vikings are ready to be aggressive, or if they will play it safe with a prospect they feel more comfortable with. Every mock draft you see right now is changing by the hour because these two safeties are polarizing the league. One is a physical specimen with some testing questions, the other is a film room junkie with elite instincts. It is a classic draft dilemma that could define the Kwesi Adofo-Mensah era. The clock is ticking, and the smoke screens are everywhere, making it impossible to know for sure which way they are leaning until that clock starts running on draft night. This situation is a perfect storm for the Minnesota Vikings because our secondary has been the Achilles' heel of this roster for what feels like an eternity. Last season, we saw flashes of brilliance, but the consistency just wasn't there, especially when we faced elite quarterbacks who could exploit the deep middle. Bringing in a talent like Caleb Downs or even Dylan Thieneman isn't just about adding a rookie. It is about transforming the way Brian Flores can call a game. Imagine having a safety who can play single high, drop into the box, or man up on a tight end without breaking a sweat. That kind of flexibility is a defensive coordinator's dream, and it allows our pass rushers more time to get home. If we secure one of these guys at 18, the ripple effect on our cornerbacks will be massive, because they can play more aggressively knowing they have elite help behind them. The future of this defense depends on hitting a home run in this draft. We cannot afford another year of being a bend but don't break unit that eventually breaks at the worst possible moment. The impact of a sliding superstar cannot be overstated. It changes your salary cap dynamics and your depth chart instantly. If Downs hits his ceiling, we are looking at a perennial All-Pro who anchors our defense for the next decade. That is the kind of impact that wins divisions and gets you deep into the playoffs. But there is also the emotional side of this for us fans. We have been through the ringer with defensive back prospects in the past, and there is always that nagging fear of a bust. However, the context of this draft is unique because the talent at the top is so concentrated on offense, which is exactly why defensive stars are being pushed down. We are in the perfect position to capitalize on the league's obsession with quarterbacks and wide receivers. The Vikings are standing at a crossroads. Do we take the gift that the draft gods are giving us, or do we try to be the smartest people in the room? The answer to that question will determine the trajectory of this franchise for years to come. I truly believe that if we walk away from the first round with an elite safety, we are immediately a top 10 defense in this league next year. The pieces are there, the coaching is there, and now the talent is falling right into our lap. At the end of the day, this draft isn't just about filling a hole on a depth chart. It is about the soul of the Minnesota Vikings. We are a team that has always prided itself on being tough, smart, and opportunistic. Seeing a talent like Caleb Downs slide to 18 is the ultimate test of that identity. It is a moment that requires courage from the front office and a clear vision for where we want to go. If we land him, it's a signal to the rest of the league that the Vikings are not just rebuilding. We are reloading with elite weapons to take back the North. This pick represents hope for every fan who sat through those tough defensive games last year. It represents the potential for a new era of dominance in the secondary. But I want to know what you think. If Caleb Downs is sitting there at 18, but the team is also looking at a guy like Dylan Thieneman or even a top-tier cornerback, what is the move? Do you take the sliding superstar despite the testing concerns, or do you go with the guy who fits the scheme perfectly? This is the kind of debate that makes being a Vikings fan so intense and rewarding. Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I'll be reading every single one of them. We need to stick together as a fan base and make our voices heard. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you stay in the loop as this draft drama unfolds. We are heading into one of the most important weekends in recent Vikings history, and I am hyped to have you all along for the ride. This is our time to get it right. This is our time to build a championship defense. Let's see if the board falls our way and we get the steal we've been waiting for. Skol Vikings, and I will see you in the next one when we find out if the dream becomes a reality.